My name is Mark, I'm 35, and I watched my life fall apart, not in a dream, but wide awake. It all started with one lie, but behind it was a chain of betrayals that burned our love to the ground. I installed a GPS tracker under my wife's car, and that's how I discovered the truth every husband dreads to hear. This is not just a story about pain, betrayal, and loss, it's about how I rebuilt myself from the wreckage. If you've ever thought you wouldn't survive a broken heart, listen to how I did. Before I continue, please support me with a subscription and a like, it means a lot to me. I'm Mark, 35, and my life in Portland, Oregon, was once a sturdy house built on 13 years of marriage to Clara, with 2 kids, Lily and Max, and a dog who loved the cedar-scented air. But a year ago, that house crumbled brick by brick when I discovered Clara's affair with a doctor named Ethan. What followed was a storm of betrayal, lies, and heartbreak, but also a journey to find myself amid the wreckage. This is my story, raw, messy, and gripping, from the moment I felt the first crack to the day I learned to stand tall in the rain. It's about love lost, truths uncovered, and the slow, stubborn work of rebuilding a life. It started last spring, when the cherry blossoms bloomed along the Willamette River. Clara, 38, had just been promoted to head nurse on the oncology ward at St. Vincent's Hospital, a dream she'd chased for years. I was proud, God, I was proud. But the promotion came with a cost. Her shifts stretched longer, her responsibilities heavier, and the light in her eyes faded. She'd come home after 12-hour shifts, her scrubs wrinkled, her face drawn, and collapse into bed without a word. I didn't mind at first. I'd make her tea, rub her shoulders, listen to her vent about hospital politics or a patient who'd broken her heart. I thought I was being the husband she needed. By June, though, Clara's stress turned sharp, like a blade she couldn't sheath. She'd snap over small things, dishes in the sink, the kids' toys on the floor. One night, she yelled at me for forgetting to buy almond milk, her voice so raw it startled Lily, who peeked out from her room. I apologized, tried to laugh it off, but Clara's anger lingered, heavy as the fog rolling off the Columbia River. We argued more, fights like thunderstorms, sudden, loud, leaving everything soggy and broken. I told myself it was the job, the lack of sleep, maybe hormones. I loved her too much to think it was anything else. By August, I couldn't ignore the changes. Clara started wearing makeup to work, something she'd never done before. Her scrubs were fitted, her hair curled, even for midnight shifts. I complimented her, thinking she was reclaiming confidence after months of exhaustion. "You look nice," I'd say, and she'd smile, but it didn't reach her eyes, like she was hiding something. I brushed it off, told myself I was paranoid. But a seed of doubt took root, deep and stubborn. Our time together dwindled to nothing. Clara was either at the hospital or sleeping, her phone buzzing with texts she'd answer in another room. She used to share everything, funny coworker stories, ER chaos, patients who made her laugh or cry. Now she was a closed book, her pages glued shut. I'd ask about her day, and she'd murmur, "It was fine," before turning away. The silence between us grew louder than our fights, and I felt like a ghost in my own home. One evening in September, we'd planned a rare night out. The kids were with my parents, and I'd booked a table at a little Italian place in the Pearl District, hoping to reconnect. But when I got home, Clara was in her scrubs, bag slung over her shoulder. "I have to cover a shift," she said, not meeting my eyes. I was gutted. "You didn't tell me," I said, my voice tighter than I meant. That sparked another fight, words flying like sparks. She accused me of not understanding her job, of suffocating her. I accused her of shutting me out. The argument ended with her slamming the door and driving off into the rainy night. That night, alone in our quiet house, I couldn't shake the feeling something was wrong. It wasn't just a fight. It was a gut instinct, like taking a wrong turn in the dark. I sat on the couch, staring at Clara's empty coffee mug, and a question slipped out, was there someone else? The thought was absurd, wasn't it? Clara, my Clara, who'd cried in my arms when Max was born, who'd laughed over late-night pizza, who'd promised forever. But the doubt gnawed like a rat in the walls. I confronted her a few days later, in the kitchen, the kids asleep upstairs, the dishwasher humming. "Clara," I said, heart pounding, "is there someone else?" Her reaction was immediate, eyes flashing, voice sharp. "Are you serious, Mark? That's insane. You're being paranoid." She stormed upstairs, leaving me feeling like I'd accused her of murder. But her denial didn't soothe me. It made the doubt grow, a shadow stretching across the floor. By October, Clara was unrecognizable. She started going out with nurses she never mentioned, staying out late, coming home smelling of wine and perfume. I'd ask where she'd been, and she'd shrug. Just blowing off steam. One night, she didn't come home until 3 a.m., claiming she'd crashed at a coworker's. I wanted to believe her, but the lies piled up, each a brick in a wall between us. I couldn't take it anymore. I needed answers. So, I did something I'm not proud of. I bought a GPS tracker and hid it under the passenger seat of her Subaru. I felt sick, like I was betraying her as much as I feared she was betraying me. But I had to know. The next week, after another fight where she screamed she needed space, she left, saying she was going to the hospital. I waited, stomach in knots, and checked the tracker app. The dot didn't move towards St. Vincent's. It stopped at an address in southeast Portland, a neighborhood I didn't recognize. She stayed there all night. The truth hit like a freight train. Clara, my wife of 13 years, mother of our children, was at another man's house. I didn't sleep, sitting in the dark, the tracker app glowing, each minute an eternity. When she came home at dawn, hair messy, eyes avoiding mine, I couldn't confront her. The words choked me. But the next day, I couldn't hold it in. We were in the living room, kids at school, rain tapping the windows. "Clara," I said, voice shaking, "where were you last night?" She froze, phone in hand. "I told you I was at work." I held up my phone, the tracker app open. "Then why was your car at some apartment in Southeast all night?" Her face went pale, then red. For a moment I thought she'd deny it, but she broke. "Fine," she said, voice low. "I was with someone. His name's Ethan. He's a doctor at the hospital." The world tilted. Ethan. A doctor. She'd been talking to him for months, confiding about her stress, her fears, things she hadn't told me in years. "He listened to me," she said, tears in her eyes. "He didn't judge me. I needed that." I stared, heart shattering. "And what about me?" I asked. "I've been here, Clara, every day, trying to hold us together." Her excuse was a knife. I just wanted to feel seen. 13 years, 2 kids, a life built brick by brick, and it came down to this: she wanted to feel seen. She'd slept with him, she confessed, not just that night but multiple times. I felt like I was drowning, the air too thick to breathe. I asked her to leave, and she did, packing a bag and driving away while I stood in the doorway, rain soaking my shoes. We tried to fix it, or I did. Therapy, long talks, me pouring out my pain like water from a cracked glass. I wanted to understand, to forgive, to save us. But Clara couldn't let him go. Even months later, I found texts on her phone, late-night calls she thought I wouldn't notice. She'd chosen him, piece by piece, until there was nothing left of us. The house felt like a museum of a life I didn't recognize. The kids' drawings hung on the fridge, but the air was stale, heavy with the ghost of Clara's laughter. The first few weeks were a blur. I'd wake at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, replaying our marriage, searching for the moment it went wrong. Was it the promotion? My silence? A crack we ignored? I'd check my phone, hoping for her apology, something to stitch the wound. But there was nothing. Just silence, and the buzz of a bill reminder. Lily, 9, asked why Mommy wasn't coming home, her brown eyes searching mine. "She's figuring things out," I said, voice hollow. Max, 6, didn't ask. He clung to me, small hands gripping my shirt like I might vanish. I had to be strong, but I was crumbling, each day a battle against her absence. I threw myself into routine. Mornings for school drop-offs, afternoons for freelance design work, evenings for soccer and bedtime stories. But nights were mine to drown in. I'd sit on the porch, beer in hand, watching streetlights flicker through the mist, wondering how Clara could trade 13 years for Ethan. I'd learn more about him. Dr. Ethan Caldwell, 40, divorced, charming in a way that made you feel small. I hated him, not just for what he did but for how he made me question myself. Was I not enough? Too boring to me? I ran into Clara at the grocery store, in the cereal aisle, debating Cheerios versus marshmallows. She was pushing a cart, hair pulled back, looking tired but beautiful, like the Clara I'd loved. My heart lurched, a traitor to my anger. "Mark," she said, startled, voice soft. For a moment, I thought she'd apologize, beg to come home. But she asked about the kids, words careful, like stepping around glass. "How's Ethan?" I asked, unable to stop. Her face tightened. "We're not here to talk about that," she said. I wanted to scream, to ask how she could still be with him. But Lily was in the car, and I didn't have the energy. I grabbed the Cheerios and left, chest tight with unsaid words. That encounter lit a fire. I couldn't live half alive, haunted by what was. I started therapy with Dr. Nguyen, a quiet woman who asked questions that cut deep. Her office smelled of lavender and old books, a calm I craved. "You're carrying her betrayal like a backpack full of stones," she said. "You can control how you rebuild." Rebuild. The word felt impossible, but I clung to it. I started running along the Willamette at dawn, the city half asleep under a gray sky. The rhythm of my sneakers, the cold air stinging my lungs, gave clarity. I'd pass joggers, dog walkers, a busker strumming a guitar, and feel part of something bigger. One morning, I stopped at a coffee cart near the steel bridge, breath fogging in the chill. The barista, a woman with a nose ring and warm smile, handed me a latte. "Rough morning?" she asked, nodding at my sweaty gear. I laughed, surprising myself. "Rough year," I said. Her name was Jenna, and we chatted, easy banter about Portland's rain and food carts. It was the first time in months I'd felt human, not just a wounded husband. Jenna's cart became a ritual. I'd run, stop for a latte, and we'd talk. She was 32, an artist from Seattle chasing a dream of opening a gallery. Her stories, of painting sessions, quirky customers, her cat's cardboard obsession, were a lifeline. I didn't tell her about Clara at first, but she sensed something. "You've got a story in those eyes," she said, handing me coffee. "Wanna share it?" I deflected with a joke, but her words lingered. Maybe I wanted to share, to be seen without baggage. Clara was trying to rebuild bridges, calling to check on the kids, asking to take them to the zoo or science museum. I'd agree, but only if I was there. I wasn't ready to let her play mom unsupervised. Those outings were surreal, like stepping into a memory. We'd watch Lily giggle at otters or Max marvel at robots, and for a moment, we'd feel like a family. But then I'd catch Clara's eye, and her betrayal would crash back. She'd try to explain, but I'd cut her off. "Not now," I'd say, voice cold. I wasn't ready for her excuses, not when I was stitching myself together. One night, after the kids were asleep, Rachel, a nurse who worked with Clara, called. "Mark, there's something else you need to know," she said, voice low, like she feared being overheard. My pulse quickened. "What now?" Rachel hesitated, then spilled. Ethan wasn't just seeing another nurse. There were rumors he'd been inappropriate with patients, crossing lines. The hospital was investigating, quietly, to avoid scandal. "Clara doesn't know," Rachel said. "But she's still talking to him. I saw them at a bar last week." The news was a punch. Clara had said she'd ended things, but now I didn't know what to believe. Was she lying, or was Rachel mistaken? I thanked her and hung up, mind racing. I wanted to confront Clara, but I'd been down that road, and it led nowhere. Instead, I searched Ethan's name on X, diving deeper. I found posts, complaints about his predatory behavior, a former colleague calling him a manipulator. One hinted at a lawsuit. It made my skin crawl. The next day, at a park for a kid outing, the kids on the swings, I couldn't hold it in. Are you still seeing Ethan? I asked Clara, voice low but sharp. She paled. No, Mark, I told you it's over. I stared, searching for the lie. Then why were you at a bar with him? Her eyes widened, trapped. It wasn't like that, she stammered. He wanted to talk, to apologize. I met him for closure. I didn't fully believe her, but the kids were watching, and I wouldn't let them see another fight. That night I couldn't sleep. I sketched, a habit that became my therapy, tracing a man running through a storm, his shadow splintering. I was at a crossroads. I could chase Clara's lies, digging for proof, letting her choices define me. Or I could let go, not of her but of the need to control the narrative. Dr. Nguyen's words echoed. What do you want, Mark? I wanted peace. To be a father my kids could rely on. To feel alive. I spent more time with Jenna, not just at the cart but at her art studio, a cramped loft in the Alberta Arts District, filled with canvases and turpentine's sharp scent. She'd paint, I'd sketch, and we'd talk about dreams, fears, how Portland's rain made everything possible and impossible. I told her about Clara, piece by piece, and she listened without judgment, brush never pausing. You're stronger than you think, she said one night, eyes meeting mine. I wanted to believe her. Clara was unraveling. She'd show up to kid outings looking haunted, smiles forced. One day, at the Oregon Zoo, the kids distracted by penguins, she pulled me aside. Mark, I need to tell you something, she said, voice shaking. Ethan's in trouble. The hospital's investigating him, something about patients. I didn't know, I swear. I nodded, unsurprised. Rachel told me, I said. Clara's face crumpled. I was so stupid, she whispered. I thought he saw me, but he was just playing me. I didn't comfort her. I stood there, letting her words sink in. The investigation broke open a month later. News reported it vaguely. Dr. Ethan Caldwell, suspended for professional misconduct. X exploded. Some called him a predator, others a scapegoat. Clara called in tears, saying she'd been questioned by HR. I didn't know, she kept saying. I thought he was different. I believed her this time, not because I trusted her but because I saw her shame, raw and unfiltered. It didn't fix us, but it closed a chapter. I kept running, painting, rebuilding. Jenna and I grew closer, not romantically, not yet, but in a way that felt like a promise. She invited me to her first gallery show, a small event in a converted warehouse. I stood among strangers, sipping cheap wine, watching her glow as she talked about her art. For the first time in years, I felt exactly where I was meant to be. Clara and I were co-parenting, a fragile truce. She was in therapy, trying to understand why she broke us. I didn't know if we'd ever be friends, let alone more, but I was done hating her. The kids needed us both. Lily's school play was last week, and we sat together, clapping for our girl. It wasn't love, but it was something, maybe enough. I was still sketching that man in the storm, but his shadow was mending. I was moving, learning to run through the rain, to feel the cold, and keep going. But the story wasn't over. There was one last piece to place, one final step to take. It's spring again, and the cherry blossoms drift like soft promises along the Willamette. A year ago, I was unraveling, taping a tracker to Clara's car. Now I'm stronger, like a tree that's grown new branches. The kids are thriving, Lily's confidence shining in her play, Max's curiosity blooming in science projects. Clara and I navigate co-parenting, and while it's off-key, we're trying for the kids. Ethan's fallout hit harder than expected. By March, St. Vincent's couldn't keep it quiet. A local paper broke the story. Dr. Ethan Caldwell, fired, license under review for misconduct with patients and staff. X was a firestorm. Posts from colleagues, patients, strangers, painting a man who wielded charm like a weapon. Some called for justice, others shared manipulation stories, a few defended him. I didn't care about the noise. Clara had seen him for what he was, a mirage. She'd been a casualty, but so had I, and I was done letting him cast a shadow. Clara came to the house one rainy afternoon, coat dripping in the doorway. The kids were at my parents', the house quiet save for the fridge's hum. "Can we talk?" she asked, voice steadier. I nodded, and we sat at the kitchen table, where we'd argued, laughed, planned our future. She looked older, not in years but experience, eyes heavy with her choices. "I've been thinking," she said, twisting her wedding ring, still on her finger. "I can't undo what I did, Mark. But I'm trying to be better, for the kids, for myself." I listened as she spoke, words careful but raw. She'd been in therapy, digging into why she'd let Ethan pull her under, why she'd pushed me away. "I was drowning," she said, "and I thought he was a lifeline. But it was you, Mark. Always you." Her eyes met mine, and I saw the Clara I'd loved, who danced with me barefoot in our old apartment. But that Clara was a memory, and this woman was new, flawed, remorseful, a stranger in ways. I didn't cry, didn't yell. "I believe you're sorry," I said. "But sorry doesn't fix us, Clara. It doesn't erase the nights I wondered if I was enough. I've spent a year rebuilding, and I can't go back." She nodded, tears spilling, but didn't argue. "I know," she whispered. "I needed to say it." We sat in silence, rain tapping, and when she left, I felt lighter, like I'd set down a burden. That was a turning point. Not for us as a couple, we were done, and I'd made peace, but for me. I didn't need Clara's apology to move forward. Closure wasn't hers to give. It was mine to build brick by brick. Dr. Nguyen was right. I had power, and I was ready to use it. I kept running, mornings a ritual of sweat and sunrise. Jenna's coffee cart was my anchor, her smile a gift. We'd grown close, not in a whirlwind but a slow, steady way, like planting a seed. One evening, after her gallery show sold out, her abstracts hanging across Portland, she invited me to her studio for a private celebration. We sat on her paint-splattered floor, sharing wine, the city's lights twinkling. "You're different," Jenna said, eyes over her glass. "Lighter." I smiled, surprised by the truth. "I'm figuring out who I am without the weight," I said. I told her about Clara's visit, letting go of hate. Jenna listened, presence warm, and reached for my hand. "You're gonna be okay, Mark," she said. "More than okay." Her touch sent a spark, not just attraction but possibility. I didn't kiss her. I wasn't ready, but I left feeling the world was open. The kids were my compass. Lily, 10, wrote stories, sharing them shyly. Max, 7, built model rockets, eyes bright with star dreams. One Saturday, we went to the Oregon coast, the Pacific stretching like an invitation. We built a sand castle, towers lopsided but proud, and as the tide crept in, Lily grabbed my hand. "Are you happy, Dad?" she asked, voice cutting through waves. I looked at her, at Max chasing a seagull, and my heart swelled. "Yeah, kiddo," I said. "I'm getting there." Clara and I finalized our divorce that summer, a quiet process like a peace treaty. We agreed on custody, splitting time, and she moved to a house in northeast Portland, near the hospital. She's in therapy, rebuilding, and I wish her well, not love, but distant compassion. The kids see her regularly, adjusting, their resilience a lesson in grace. We're not a family, but we're something else, a new shape I'm accepting. I'm still painting, canvases a mix of storm and light, jagged lines softening. My latest piece, my proudest, shows a man on a cliff, sea churning below, sky clear above. It's me, who I'm becoming. I hung it where Clara's photos were, a reminder I'm writing my story. Jenna and I are slow, but there's a spark, a warmth I haven't felt in years. We're planning a trip to the Columbia River Gorge to hike, sketch, see where the path leads. I don't know if she's my future, but she's my present, and that's enough. I'm sitting on my porch, Portland rain a soft drizzle, air thick with cedar. Lily's laughter drifts from inside, reading to Max, their voices a melody holding me together. I'm Mark, 35, and I've been to hell and back, but I'm here, alive, breathing. The cracks in my mirror haven't vanished, but they're part of the picture, reflecting a man who's learned to love himself. Trust his heart. The rain keeps falling, but I'm not running. I'm standing still, letting it wash me clean, ready for what's next.